didn't need to revisit 9/11 again.
I mean,
It's just like, oh my God.
I know, but it's also so, yes,
Okay.
agreed.
You know what I did want to revisit?
What?
Julian Pensavalli.
Patrick Hines.
Ba-da-da. Oh my God, it's been a minute since I've done the garbage bell.
Oh, there she is. You got her?
Yeah.
Where did
hi,
you
girl.
just pull her out from?
Out from under a piece of paper. I have like a list of pages of notes of things Steve wants us to do today.
Right.
So
We did it all, Steve.
I know.
But it looked like you pulled, like you had a little compartment under the table.
She should have her own fancy
like her
home.
little-
Hi, girl.
Like with a little plush mini pillow or something.
Fam, quick favor, if you're feeling like it, if you want more Julian and me, and who could blame you,
Oh,
as
boy.
I used to say, pre-pandemic days, join us on the Patreon. Over 400 ad-free full bonus episodes to download a binge. You get a full ad-free bonus episode every week. Every Friday we get you. So you get 2 of us a week.
Yeah, and now we're doing these bonuses, too.
Oh my God,
boy.
3 of us a week.
Yikes.
You need no other podcast, just us. Us and Pod Save America, that's it.
Sure, whatever.
What are we talking about today?
All right, this is our bonus episodes. We are doing the mystery at Empire Lake, and Keith Morrison is our host.
It's been the story of their lives.
We cannot sit here in silence and watch another travesty of justice take place.
It's about their world, the one that fell apart in a time they can't recall.
Do you remember very much about your mom anymore?
Not really.
It's been a long time.
It's about what happened on a September day the rest of the world can't forget.
Is there a corner of your brain that thinks maybe it was somebody else?
Not at all. Not at all.
14 years, 3 trials, moments of sheer agony.
Takes your breath away. You know, it's like getting stabbed in the stomach.
So it's September 2001. Like, holy shit.
I know.
I mean, this is so wild. This is a case that happens literally on September 11th.
Yeah.
And like, there's the other case. Whenever people ask me at Q&As what like case I'm
Sneha.
obsessed with, it's
Yeah.
the Sneha Phillip. She was the doctor who lived across from the World Trade Center and
Right.
like it went missing on September 10th. It's so wild to hear. I've never heard of another sort of mystery that happened on September
know.
11th like this.
And it's so wild. It's just like, like babies are born and accidents, like other things were happening in the world too, which is completely normal. It's just like...
It's also like this takes place 3 hours from New York City,
I know.
and they barely reference 9/11 at all.
Or what it was like for them.
I know.
It was
but
odd.
I mean, we lived here for that. So, like,
Yeah.
obviously, we were right on top of it. It
Yeah.
was a window into, like, what it was like in other places where, like,
Right.
it was happening, but it wasn't, like, maybe the primary focus for everybody.
Right.
The way it was for us. So, we learn about the Harris family. We meet the 4 children, and at the time, they were 7, 6, 4, and 2. This is about their mother going missing.
The first thing I thought of, like, how hard those ages.
I know. And like the youngest set, like some of the older kids have some memory of their mom, but like the youngest is like, I have no memories of her at all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like, Daisy's 9.5 now. I'm trying to remember like when she was 7, I guess she would maybe have little memories of me if I were
would
gone.
think so. 7 years old?
I know. But yeah, I mean, and like the oldest one says like they do have some memories of the mother, but like it's just so fucking sad.
And now they have like this huge house. It's on a lake. It looks like a movie, just like tons of property.
We're gonna learn it's 200 acres, and they have a private lake in the backyard.
This family, they are super, super rich.
Which is so wild because we learned, like, even Keith says,
A unique and special place that only a prosperous person could afford, like the prominent car dealer Cal Harris.
Cal is described as a prominent car dealer.
Yeah.
How much money are you making as a car dealer?
I guess a lot. I mean, based on that house
But like
and that property.
a lot. Like
Yeah,
this
like a
isn't
lot.
like a guy doing well. This is like a fucking rich guy.
Rich guy. Now, his name is Calvin Harris.
Yeah.
This is not the Calvin Harris who dated Taylor Swift and co-wrote that Rihanna song with her.
Oh, wait, she wrote a Rihanna song?
This is what you came for? Tom, can we hear some of it?
And everybody's watching her, but she's looking at you.
Oh my God, Taylor Swift, why did she give it to Rihanna?
Because she's great.
She just did it like for Rihanna.
Yeah, she was. Calvin Harris is like this producer, and he was working with Rihanna, and Taylor Swift like wrote this demo, and then they wrote it together. Anyway, you're gonna hear the name Calvin Harris
God,
a lot.
that's so funny.
It's not the Swedish producer Calvin Harris.
What if it was like the bad guy in the episode? His name was River Phoenix, but not that.
But
River.
not that one. Remember when we had like Richard Rogers? But not that Richard Rogers.
Oh my God, yeah.
So, yeah.
But the family
Anyway.
was like really outdoorsy. They love to hunt, fish, and jet ski on the lake. Like they're really using their property.
Yeah.
You know?
Great. And if you have it, Like, why do you have it if you're not going to use it?
get,
You know what
but
I mean?
like it looks like they live in total isolation.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like Camp Crystal Lake. It looks very like
that's the Friday the 13th camp. In
yeah,
case you didn't know.
I'm like, that place is beautiful, but
my God. Yeah.
like spooky and beautiful. But it is. It's just like they're on a lake and they have. It feels like you go to like an estate or like a compound.
Keith
or like,
even says to the kids at one point, like, Christmas here must be amazing.
Right. It feels like a vacation house, but it's where they live all the time.
Exactly.
So Cal Harris wakes up one day.
The morning of September 12th.
But he woke up one morning almost 14 years ago to find that his wife, Michelle, wasn't home. She'd gone to work the evening before, didn't come back. Mary Harris is Cal's aunt.
He didn't know where she was and didn't know what had happened.
Woke up and she wasn't there.
She went to work the night before and she never came back.
Now, right away, we meet Mary Harris, who's Cal's aunt, and she's like, I know. He didn't go out looking for her in the search party, and I know that looks really weird, but I swear to God, I can explain it.
Yeah.
Like, before she says hello, before she tests her level, she's like, I know what you're going to ask. I know it's weird. I know it's weird that he wasn't looking.
I've been doing this for years. I know exactly. Keith, are we ready to go? What are we speeding? Let's go.
But
I got shit to say.
It's not a good look when right away you're on the defensive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But let me say something. On the other hand, Michelle has great fucking friends.
Yes.
Because they just kept calling her and calling her and calling her. And
they are pissed. It is like you if I was missing. It's like, girl, where the fuck are you?
But it's also September 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, her friends are, where the hell are you? You need to call me as soon as freaking possible.
Yes.
I am worried to death about you. I mean, these friends of hers really were completely just on the job.
But like my first note here is, okay, wait a second. She's gone. No one can find her. And the assumption isn't that something happened to her. The assumption is she's gone on purpose and intentionally not calling her friends.
I think the date matters a lot.
Yeah,
I think people were asking a lot of questions. Everything was terrifying. We didn't know what else was going to happen.
You know, and Dateline does not put that into context. They don't. I mean, it's like, did she drive into the city? You know what I mean?
Like, or was there another attack and we don't know about it yet? Like, or was there a different kind of like gas? We didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, and the family, they say, lives in Owego, New York. I Googled it. It's 3.5 hours from New York City.
I Googled it too. I have 3.5 to 4 hours depending on traffic. Thanks, Google.
We learned too that like and this happened everywhere, all of law enforcement had been sent to the city.
And first responders.
So like they say there was just a skeleton crew left. Like if something bad happened to you on September 11th or 12th and you lived anywhere near New York City, DC or Shanksville, Pennsylvania, like you weren't going to get a lot of help.
Right. And so the cops get the call on September 12th.
Yeah.
Because again, like life goes on, things happen, accidents happen. Like you needed that skeleton crew there. As much as we had to focus on what was going on. Like,
I mean, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Case in point, this thing is missing.
So the cops get the call on September 12th and it's Cal Harris being very cooperative. He just wants this solved. Oh my God, it's the love of his life.
Well, because they send cops to his house and he's like, come in, you can search anywhere, you can look at anything.
Right.
I'm an open book. Once again, I'm saying, why are you assuming that they're looking at you, Cal?
Because he's the husband.
Yeah, I guess.
You know?
There's a lot of people acting very defensive right from the jump. That's all I'm saying.
But everyone also is just like waiting for Michelle to call or show up. Like, because of course you're not thinking something hard. You're just like, any minute she's going to show up and it's going to be the story that maybe we'll laugh about one day. Some crazy thing.
I'm trying to put myself in Cal's shoes because remember, he's got 4 kids.
Cal said his Aunt Mary was completely focused on his 4 children, had to leave it to others to search for Michelle.
His thing was, okay, it's time for them to go to school. All right, it's time for me to pick them up. I need to be sure that if this is the routine that that is normal for them, we're going to keep them in that routine.
He's got to keep them in their routine so they don't freak out. I was trying to imagine if Steve went missing and in our neighborhood and you and the police and all of our friends were out looking for Steve, would I be 100% focused on Daisy and not out searching? Probably.
Okay.
I think I would be.
I don't know. I think
if I knew it was like if nobody was looking, of course I'd be out there. But if I knew people were like, Daisy would be a primary concern. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
But I would also think that it's like, Mike and I will take Daisy. We'll hang out with her, and you do what you have to do.
Yeah,
I think it's part of. That's when the friends and family show up. Your sister Becca would probably be like, "I'll take care of her.
Yeah.
I'll worry about it."
Yeah, and I would be. I mean, I would also be a wreck. And at no point is Cal a wreck. We will learn that their marriage was not good. They were getting a divorce. We'll get there.
And
eventually.
That he's an asshole.
Yes, but I do think that sometimes in these situations when like they were getting divorced anyway, they weren't happy, and like the person is missing, and
sure.
the spouse, the other spouse isn't crying.
Right. There was love lost there, and
Yes.
that's okay, too, right?
I'm just saying, Cal, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of you. Cal,
No matter what.
By
exactly.
any stretch. I don't like you at all. So, but we see like some important information. Michelle's van is at the end of their very, very long driveway, and the keys are still in the ignition. And it's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
That's never good.
No.
That means something bad happened. I'm sorry.
And the driveway's like really, you wouldn't walk the driveway. It's like a quarter, half a mile, something like that.
Well, there are over 200 acres to look through. Like, I cannot stress how much property this is.
Yes.
And so...
Also, the investigators, when they go in to search the house, they do it with cameras.
Yeah.
I thought, like, is that normal?
I mean, you always photograph a scene, no?
But like a video camera. Like we see like, they're like videoing the house.
Great. Even better.
I think so too, but I was just like, wow, like everyone's real sus about Cal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We learned, by the way, about these 200 acres.
That area was homesteaded heavily in the 1800s, so there's a lot of laid up wells and old foundations and things like that.
Didn't find anything.
No, we didn't.
There were a lot of laid up wells and old foundations. She's saying there's plenty of places on this property to hide a body.
Uh-huh. Ugh.
I know.
God.
I know.
So let's go inside the house, however, with their cameras and all that stuff. The investigators find evidence in the house. They find bloodstains on and around the door that led to the garage.
Yep.
Also on the kitchen rug, and it's all Michelle's blood, all of it.
Yeah.
Like everything changes. This is like, that was a big oh shit moment for me.
And like, once again, like to play devil's advocate, like I'm really looking at Cal. Why would you be so fucking stupid? Like, if he killed her in the house, it would have had to have been a gory crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
And he cleans all of it up but leaves the rug? You know what I mean?
Leaves the rug, yeah. Or maybe, I don't know how much of it was on the rug.
Or how visible it was on the rug.
You know, maybe he thought he cleaned it.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Then, but we also don't see, we don't hear like, remnants of bleach on the tile. We don't hear that either.
I mean, we will learn that in the garage, there is like a 3 foot by 6 foot area where blood had been cleaned up.
Yeah.
So there was, something fucking happened there.
Yeah. And so Sue the cop is here.
Yes.
She's a cop. Her name is Sue. Sue the cop. Just a little insight into how my brain works, everybody.
But she actually says, like, there was a lot of blood. And she also says it wasn't just drips of blood.
There's a lot of blood in the garage and spread over a wide area. And there's a lot of blood splatter. I mean, over 60 drops of blood that's been not just dripped, but splattered by some force on that throw rug.
She says with some force. So like a violent thing happened there.
Plus the key still in the car, like all of this together.
But wait a second. That seems to be conflicting to me. So with the car being at the opposite end of the driveway and the key still in it, is the implication that she got out of the car and somebody snatched her or somebody did something to her? Because that's different than her getting into the house and being bludgeoned by the sink.
Yeah. Or she was trying to get away.
Yeah, or...
And
they do come up with an explanation for this later. We'll get to it.
Okay. So let's go through the Calvin and Michelle story.
Yeah. It got off to a storybook start.
Yeah, Michelle was working for his brother, but Calvin goes, I don't know, it kind of evolved from there. I'm like, riveting, Cal.
Well, and they also tell us, like, how pretty she was.
Yeah, she was awesome. She was athletic. She was always having a good time. And Keith goes, wasn't a dainty wee thing, as it were, Keith. I don't like it. I have notes.
I know. Once again, though, we're talking about how much money this guy makes as a car dealer. Are you dealing in Ferraris? Like, I don't... What?
Yeah, because her...
We're in the wrong line of business, girl.
I don't know. Like, all right. So Michelle's dad, Gary, is like, look, we didn't grow up rich. Michelle didn't grow up rich, but she really was, like, living the good life with Cal.
And there's a lot to like about marrying a rich guy, I guess. Like, they're traveling all over the place. She can have anything she wants, you know? I mean, it's a nice life.
Sure. Yeah. 1991, they get married at this gorgeous lake house. It was like a beautiful day, they call it a relaxing day. It was just like a really great party on the lake with all their friends. This gorgeous scenery.
That was the place. So they get married at the lake. They liked it so much, they like buy the land and build a house there.
Right. There was like a lake house, and then the lake house became like, I don't know, the guests' quarters or whatever in their fancy pants house. And they had 4 kids and like filled this big house with their kids. And the kids now are Taylor, he's 21, Kayla is almost 20, Jenna is 18, and Tanner is 16.
And like Keith does an interview with them like on the back porch of the house.
Just them without
the dad.
Cal, yeah.
Or Aunt, what's her name? Either. Apologist Aunt Mary.
Yeah. I had an Aunt Mary, so when I keep hearing Aunt Mary, I was like, what?
Oh, that's so funny.
My Aunt Mary would never. She was a badass Italian lady.
Like these poor fucking kids, you're just going to see, they go through it over and over and over again.
And even with that terrible loss, said the kids, They've grown up happy and content for the most part, all thanks to one person.
Just tell me about your dad. What kind of guy is he?
Funny.
Funny?
Goofy, yeah.
He's funny and he's the most caring guy in the world, and he's protective and just loves us so much.
They describe him as sweet, goofy, protective, and funny. The thing that makes me really sad here is they seem to have no relationship with their mom's family, which is just that's all they have left of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is they we see this a lot. I can't remember the other episode we covered where this was the thing, but it's my God, the kids have no there's so much hatred between the dad and the mom's family and vice versa.
Oh, in Wild Crime.
Yes.
Where they were really separating the kid, the little girl, and
from
it's
the dead mom's family. It's awful.
It's awful. So Cal tells Keith, Michelle was struggling to raise our 4 kids as a young mom, and he goes, I totally get it. I understood. And I'm like, could you help her? Could you contribute?
Also, can we hear that from one other person?
Yeah.
Because the implication being maybe she ran away. You know what I mean?
Right.
That she was so unhappy that maybe she just couldn't be a mom anymore. Can we hear from one of Michelle's friends?
Yeah.
We don't. The only people we hear from Michelle's side is her dad.
Right.
And I want one other person to corroborate that Michelle was having a hard time being a mom.
One of her awesome friends who was calling. But also, when I first heard the ages 9, 7, 4, and 2, I was like, holy shit.
Or just the sheer number of fucking
of
kids. I struggle being a dad. I've got 1.
4 kids, single-digit age.
I know.
It's tough. But that's why I'm just like, hey, Cal.
Right.
Could you contribute? Dads don't babysit the kids. They just fucking help raise. They just raise them
raise their
as
children.
a part of this family or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, I totally got it. It must have been so hard. And I'm like, Cal, be enough. But then we learn Cal, quote, loves order. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure this guy was a real fucking cut up at parties. He sounds like a blast.
Well, it also sounds like he was hoping to marry somebody who would keep his house for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, do the mom, the housewife stuff, raise all the kids and do everything.
And
Michelle,
she wasn't, no, to be very clear, Michelle loved her fucking kids. And people say,
of course,
there's no way she would have left her kids. The cop is here to tell us, we knew she never would have left her kids. But she's also not the orderly person. She had what they called her.
She had a room downstairs, and she called it the Chuck room. Or if there was going to be a party or a picnic or whatever, she'd take it down the Chuck room.
Where she would just take things and put it in the Chuck, just throw it down the stairs into the Chuck room.
Yeah, she'll deal with it later.
Yeah, and I think that Chuck, I think that Cal didn't like that.
Right, but if you wanted the 4 kids, Cal, sometimes raising 4 kids, Michelle,
also,
just cut her some fucking slack, give her some space.
And if you're so successful as a car salesman, hire some help to clean the house.
If you're not gonna do it,
right,
then make it anyway. He's an asshole. But he also had this really hot temper.
Yes.
And Michelle was scared of him at times. She would call her family and she'd be hiding in the closet.
I mean, terrified, hiding in the closet. We're told that Cal was standing outside the closet with a fucking pump gun.
I had to Google that.
Is it what is it?
You could shoot it over and over again. Due to rapid reloading by pump action and spread of shots, it's an ideal weapon for counter ambush tactics.
Oh my God.
But he's doing this to scare her and manipulate her.
Yes.
He's shooting a gun in the air that's really loud and really rapid fire to scare her and bully her and intimidate her. It's abusive.
I mean, that is 100% abusive.
And it's just well, no, I didn't hit her. I hit the wall. Abusive.
And what aren't the kids telling us? If your wife is hiding in a closet with you standing outside with a gun, what did you do to the fucking kids, Cal?
Right. And, Cal denies this. He denies a lot of things. Shut up, Cal. That's all I have to say. Now, by 1999, this woman who's raising his 4 kids, he's not helping in any way that a dad should be or a co-parent should be. By 1999, he's having an affair. Now, Cal, how is that helping your single mother of 4, essentially?
Exactly.
You have time to cheat on her. You have time to help.
Right.
You have time to be a part of the family. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Stop with the girlfriend or just divorce her.
Right. Exactly. And we learned Michelle was devastated but not ready to end the marriage, and they wanted to try too. And Keith says,
they did what they could to salvage the marriage. It didn't work. She told her family he cut off her spending money. She took up with a young man in November 2000. A month later, she told Cal she wanted a divorce. Her family said he didn't take it well.
Cal cuts her off financially.
Which is so that is also so manipulative.
It's abusive.
And so abusive.
It's financial abuse. That's 100%. A real thing. Look it up.
Yes.
And so, like, she has 4 kids.
Yeah.
And she's cut off financially. So by the next year, it's the year 2000, she gets a new boyfriend.
Right. But this is also why she has. So remember when she was working at night, she went to work on the evening of September 11th. She's a waitress at like a restaurant.
Yeah.
And like she's like, I don't understand. She's living with her rich husband, raising the kids. He cuts her off financially.
And a part of it is like, oh, you're going to be dating someone else. It's like he cheated on her.
Right.
Oh my God. So Cal cuts her off financially. Michelle's dating someone else. Michelle files for divorce and Cal, quote, didn't take it well. I'm sure he didn't.
She stays in the house because her attorney says that's like the best move for her right now. And they say they divide the parenting duties and work on a settlement. This is when Michelle gets her waitressing job. And we learn on the night that she went missing, September 11th, 2001, she finished her shift at around 9 o'clock. She has some drinks with 2 coworkers and she drives over to her boyfriend's apartment, leaves at about 11, and that's the last time anyone saw her.
Now, here's what they're not saying. What kind of atmosphere was it at the bar on the night of September 11th?
Right.
Because I'm sure things stayed open. Like we were saying, the world like went on in some way.
I worked at my bar in New York City on September 11th.
Really?
Yeah.
Everything I know was shut down.
We were on the Upper West Side, and it was a restaurant. So it was like a restaurant bar, and it was a well-known restaurant group. And I remember the electricity was out. We spent all that night gathering the bottled water to send down to Ground Zero.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what it was. But we were open as a place for people to come. Helen Hunt came and sat at the bar, and she was hysterical. I think she lost her brother. Like
Jesus Christ.
That was one of those things.
Just people commiserating.
Exactly.
And like trying to be together in this terrifying moment.
Which I'm imagining is what the atmosphere was probably like at her bar too.
But like for a minute, like I would have loved for them to maybe touch on that a little. And I don't need to be re-traumatized by 9/11. I stay off social media on 9/11. I never need to see that fucking footage ever again. But it would have been like, Michelle, of course she stayed after because everyone was talking about this tragedy that had happened and trying to make sense of it.
Even separately just from that, you and I both talk about this all the time, one of the great benefits of having a restaurant job is the camaraderie that you get. So if Michelle has been so alone in her life and miserable at home, then like, of course she's staying after and having drinks with her coworkers. That's what you do when you work in a restaurant.
She'd rather talk about this tragedy with her coworkers than like what this husband that cut her off and they're not speaking and like she's going where she can find like warmth.
And you're living in the house with the person you're divorcing. I can't imagine the tension. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So she leaves her boyfriend's house at 11. They say that's the last time anyone saw her. Because then I'm like, can we get eyes on the boyfriend?
Yeah.
Because they say here, the detectives tell us they looked at a lot of people in the beginning. Who? I want to know who they looked at.
We get a lot of, who is this person?
I know.
And we never get answers in this episode.
But like, really, truly, like the boyfriend was the last person to see her. Isn't the last person to see somebody as immediate a suspect as 100%. The spouse? Or
Absolutely. You would think.
So, but they say, like, apparently they rule all these people out, and that's when Cal becomes the main focus. And then, of course, the kids tell us.
The district attorney even tried to speak to the 2 eldest children. Didn't accomplish much beyond frightening them, apparently.
I know, I just sat there and cried the whole time. I didn't talk. I wasn't allowed to be in there with Taylor. But
how old were you at the time?
I was in 4th grade and he was in 5th grade. So 9 and 10.
They have to know, like, did you hear anything? Was there a fight? Did you see something bad happen? And the kids are like totally traumatized by it.
Right. And then they're thinking like, their dad's a suspect. We see this all the time too. Like they lost their mother.
Yeah.
It's very natural for these kids to side with their father because they don't want to lose him either.
They absolutely have to.
And so like even though...
And when you're 7 years old, you're going to believe anything your dad tells you, of
course. And but I think even now they need that because they can't not have it. And I don't begrudge them.
Also, like when you learn something when you're 7, it becomes your truth.
Of course.
So I don't even think they're telling themselves anything. I think they believe it because they learned to believe it when they were, 7 was the oldest, like 2, 4, whatever. It is the ingrown truth that they've always known.
Right. And to your point that we don't see a lot of Michelle's people here, like the narrative was constructed by Cal.
Yes, 100%. But because he's the main focus, they say they arrest him in September 2005, 4 years later. They charge Cal with second-degree murder.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, okay, wait a second, because they're saying like the DA interviewed a lot of other people who say Cal is, the kids are saying it wasn't my dad, but a lot of other people are saying Cal's the guy. And I'm like, okay, so you arrest him because a bunch of other people, like, where's the evidence?
Right. And the thing is, like, Michelle has disappeared.
Yeah.
We don't know where she is.
Right.
There's no body here.
Nobody saw what happened.
where were the 4 little kids? If she was the one who took care of them, like they weren't home when this happened.
And Cal describes the scene of the cops like literally kicking in his office door and like handcuffing him in front of everybody and dragging him out to make as big a spectacle as possible.
The DA was going to take the case to trial, even though there was no body, no murder weapon, and even though he himself was by no means convinced he could prevail.
I thought that it was maybe a 50-50 shot at a conviction. I thought that a jury could go either way.
I don't even think I'm going to win this thing.
Which is wild, because don't we hear time and time again that DAs never bring cases that they know unless they know they're going to win them?
I don't know.
And like, look, I'm glad. I'm glad. Like, I at the very least think there's a very good reason to suspect him.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're doing it. But like, it's also like maybe just wait then until you have evidence enough to convict him.
Right, because Cal is charged in 2005, but the trial doesn't start until 2007.
Uh-huh.
And then when the trial starts, like the big case against Cal is that he loved being in charge and he was controlling and domineering and overbearing.
Yeah.
And then we're bringing, Michelle took notes on how she was treated. And to me, that's always a major red flag.
Mean, the Nicole Brown Simpson of it all.
When someone is writing things down or telling people, and
it's so bad that you have to document it.
Right. She was writing down quotes and things he was saying to her, and she got an order of protection against Cal. And that was another big, like, wait, she did?
Can I just say one more thing, too? That Cal tells us, like, before we get into all the trial stuff, he's saying, when I got arrested, it really fucking hurt. I was in good standing with the community. I was running a successful business. I was donating my time, my money, my resources to good causes in the community. I raised my kids in that community. I don't hear a single word of him saying, my kids lost their mother. Where is she? We don't even know that she's dead.
I know we were getting divorced, but oh my God, I don't want harm to befall her. Like, none of that.
I mean, it's just like, it's all the narcissism of it just being about what it makes him look like to be arrested.
I mean, it's to me, it's all these red flags are just like, they're popping up left and right.
These people who do these things, and again, I'm saying allegedly, I don't know, but like, don't have even the smarts to say like, let me pretend like I give a shit.
Yeah.
Let me pretend like I wish they were still out there looking for my still missing wife. There's no body. We don't know that she's dead.
Some crocodile tears.
Yeah, anything.
Give me something, but he can't muster
show me
it.
a little concern for the kids. Just tell me that your kids are suffering.
And one of the quotes that Michelle wrote down was that,
I wouldn't need a gun to kill you, and if I did kill you, they'll never find your body.
In the heat of passion, people say terrible things to each other. Doesn't mean they kill them, though.
But he went beyond saying terrible things to her. He told her that he would put her body in a place where it would never be found.
And if I did kill you, no one would find your body.
Now,
and like, that's where we are.
I'm sorry. When you say something like that, I think you're going to do it. You know what I mean? When you've thought enough of, like, that is such an insane thing to say out loud. If you are the kind of person who would articulate something like that, you're I don't know. That to me, like, we all have things that we think when we're having a fight with our person that you don't say.
Come on, though.
I know.
Nothing even close to this.
Can you imagine me saying to Steve, they'll never find your body?
Like, he'd be like, girl, please. If I'm dead, who's going to do all the work?
Right. You know what? You make a good point.
All right, fine. Smooch. But like, and the thing that really stuck out, not just that no one would find your body, because that is absolutely terrifying, but like, I wouldn't need a gun to kill you.
Right.
And that is really scary because he would use the gun to intimidate her and to be abusive and to scare her and to also, like, that just begs a lot of question marks. Like, what do you mean?
Well, because that implies he's already thought about how he would do it.
Right. And then it's making you think, but what is that? What is he going to do?
Right.
What does that mean? And then you just live in fear and you walk on eggshell. I mean, he's an abuser. No question.
Was this in her notes? Is this how we know that he said this to her?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, to write something like that down, and like, fuck that attorney who was like, stay at the house. You should stay at the house because you'll get more money in the settlement or whatever.
Yeah.
Or get out.
Or to still like have residency there, but stay with the boyfriend maybe.
Or we do know that people who leave their spouses who might kill them are in the most danger when they leave.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
maybe the attorney is saying, stay there
put.
for yes.
As long, we'll figure something out and stay at the boyfriend's as much as possible, but still like have your resident, like the mail still goes there.
Yes.
Let's have it or something.
To just not send him over the edge.
Or something.
So now we learn about Barb Thayer, the family babysitter. She testified. She was the one who found Michelle's van at the end of the long driveway.
Yeah.
We are told that she said when she testified,
She goes into the house and she yells, is Michelle here? Because her car's at the end of the driveway. And the defendant, without missing a beat, he just said, we'd better go get the car.
According to the babysitter, Cal didn't seem surprised.
Doesn't ask her any questions about the keys, like he knows that the keys are in the van.
How would you know that the keys are still in? Like, he just knew that the keys were in the car, and so we better go get it. Like,
because what happens is Barb shows up, she sees the car, and she goes to the house, and she's like, Cal, is Michelle here? Like, why is her car all the way at the end of the driveway?
Right.
Like, this looks weird.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we better go get the car. Like, he didn't seem surprised.
Right.
He was like, he knew the key. Like, what do you mean we better go get the car?
And also, like, your missing wife's car just turned up. That would be significant if you didn't know that she was where she was.
Why isn't the question like, her car's here? I haven't seen her.
Right, exactly.
Oh, the car.
Oh my God, is she here? Is she back?
Where is she?
Exactly.
Not just like, well, we better get that pesky car from the 2-mile driveway. Like, oh my God. And then we also have like more people saying that he really didn't seem concerned. His biggest concern was getting Michelle's van cleaned out so he can put it on the lot and sell it.
That is like, oh my God.
Whether he did it or not.
Like, tell me that you know your wife isn't coming back without telling me that your wife isn't coming back.
And that you're a greedy asshole.
Yeah. And this is where we get like the money talk, because the prosecutors are saying that Cal's motive for killing her would have been money. And we learn
Cal had learned that Michelle was demanding an appraisal of the car business. Did she intend to take a piece of it in the divorce?
All of a sudden, everything is out of his control.
So, the argument went, if Michelle disappeared, Cal's problems did too.
If Michelle disappeared, Cal's problems would disappear too. That, like, he's getting his finances scrutinized. He might have to sell the house. They're saying the kids would probably go with Michelle. He's a man who's obsessed with control, who's out of control. But if Michelle disappears, he gets all the control back.
So he wants his life just the way it is, just without Michelle in it.
Exactly.
That's what he wants.
Exactly.
And so here's what the prosecutor says. The guy who thinks he only has a 50-50 shot of winning this thing. Here's his whole theory.
Yeah.
He walks us through it. Michelle got home at 11:30 p.m., parked her car, went in through the garage door where the body was found. That's when Cal, quote, struck her with something, but we don't know what.
Yeah.
She fell down on the kitchen rug where there was more blood. She was hit again. Cal took her back to the garage, laid her down on the garage floor, tried to clean up, left the car with the keys in the ignition. He planted it in that way so that it would look like someone else abducted her, I guess.
Yeah.
And then disposed of the body somewhere on the property, perhaps, or in the lake or something.
Because there's a 7 or 8 hour window between like midnight and 8 a.m. when the babysitter arrives.
So the reason the car doesn't make sense, according to the prosecutor, is because Cal staged it that way.
Right. Somebody put it there.
Right. And so, like, apparently the blood, we kind of breeze right by this, and I'm like, okay. But apparently the blood evidence matches up with this theory. Like, the blood they found and how they found it.
Because they're saying that, like, the blood spatter on the rug in the kitchen.
Prosecution witnesses called it medium velocity spatter that had been left there only recently.
I think it could very well have been the most important part of the case as far as placing Michelle bleeding in the house with some force having been applied to that blood.
It's as though it came from like a medium velocity like object.
God.
But once again, can we get a blood expert to tell us that that's, you know what I mean?
I know.
Because there's a lot of like, this is probably what happened.
Right, but we are not entirely sure. But just for the sake of argument, let's just like go that way. Right. I'm like, okay. But by June 2007, Cal Harris is found guilty. No. Not so fast, everybody.
Yeah. This is what. So he is found guilty in that original trial, gets 25 to life.
Right. But everyone is in the courtroom for sentencing.
Yes.
Including brand new character in this whole thing, Kevin Tubbs.
Can I just pause here and say, as a also not small person, this guy's last name being Tubbs could not have been easy on him.
Kids are the worst.
It would be as though my last name were Ferry. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
As though my full name is Patrick Joseph Queenie Girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sissy
Patrick
girl.
Joseph Gay Boy.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Patrick Joseph Gaylord. There was actually a kid who went to my high school whose last name was Gaylord.
Gaylord Fogger. There's like a whole movie franchise based on that one joke.
I know.
Gaylord Fokker.
Dude, are you smelling my boxers?
The fact that she says, go wake up Denny and borrow his clothes is absurd. I'm sorry.
But like, also, was he smelling his boxers? Do you know what I mean?
Probably to be like, are these clean? But when Ben Stiller says, and it's like seared into my brain, you want me to go upstairs and wake up your brother I've never met and go to ask to borrow some of his clothes. And she gives him this look like, come on. I'm like, she's wrong. She's wrong.
Justice for Terry Polo. What happened to her?
God, Terry. So
anyway, Kevin Tubbs, poor guy.
Keith describes him as
a plain-spoken, rough-hewn farm worker back then, was hauling hay. And why was he so important? Because after 6 years during which Tubbs swore he barely registered the fuss over the Harris case, he picked up a paper and saw the story of Cal's conviction.
Keith.
I know.
So
it's the 1530s in Wahagawa or whatever we are.
Rough-hewn farm worker.
Yeah.
Okay, plain spoken. Anyway, Kevin, I'm like, who is Kevin? Why are we here? What's the deal with Kevin?
Kevin has got a story to tell.
Well, Kevin at first is like, I fully admit I was not paying attention to this case at all. I knew nothing about it.
Because what he's about to tell us is a bombshell, and it's information that he's known for 6.5 years.
But he didn't know it. And then 6 years after the conviction, he finally picks up a newspaper, and then he suddenly starts to remember in perfect detail something that happened 6 years ago.
Now, here's the thing. In Kevin Tubbs's defense, he's remembering something that happened the morning after 9/11.
Yes.
Which is a very important thing to remember, easy to forget that like that day, like I can tell you exactly what I was doing on September 11th. Could I tell you what I was doing on September 11th, 2002? Absolutely not.
No.
You know, it's a day where the events like stay in your mind.
I don't remember the 12th though.
I remember the 12th pretty well.
Really?
I do.
I remember being like with my roommate in college and watching like I remember sort of being like hunkering down a little bit.
Yeah, I remember like anyway. But the point is they're tying his memory to the 12th and saying it's a significant date. He would remember what he saw. So he's saying he's out in his car. It's between 5:30 and 6 in the morning.
He was hauling a load of hay, as Keith tells us. We get it. He was a farmer. Understood.
He's driving by the Harris property, and he says he sees a blonde woman and a young gentleman in his early 20s standing in front of a black pickup truck.
And hardly more than 10 feet away, he said, he looked straight at the young man, saw he was dark-haired, muscular, and visibly angry.
He looks at me like this, like, you know, what do you want?
And the woman, she was looking down.
Just by her face, looked like she was crying. She was either upset or wasted.
The woman, he said, he was certain of it, was Michelle Harris.
And he says, I know it was Michelle, and according to Kevin, she was very drunk.
Very drunk, like looking down. She was either drunk or upset, whatever. But he remembers seeing her at 5:30 in the morning. Now, if he's correct...
And the guys turned to him and gave Kevin like a what the hell do you want? Like, what are you looking at kind of gesture?
I'm about to kill her. Why are you bothering me?
Yeah,
look.
keep driving.
Yeah. And so... If this guy Kevin Tubbs is correct, then there's no way that Cal could be the killer, obviously, right? And so all of this is coming to light at Cal's sentencing hearing, where the judge is fucking furious that he's just learning about this witness for the first time. The judge throws out the entire case and says we need a redo.
Yeah.
So Cal, who's been sentenced to 25 to life and is never going to see his kids again, gets to go home that day.
Yep, forget it.
And so it cuts to Michelle's dad, and Michelle's dad is like, everybody knows this guy is lying. Why the judge threw out the case? Look, everyone knows this isn't real. And to which I say, how do you know?
Right.
Tell me how you know.
Because here's the thing. It's like, why wait? It's kind of an odd story. Why wait 6 years?
Yes.
Like, how much credibility can this guy have? He didn't pay attention to the case. Like, I get that.
Dateline, give me a counter example. Tell me why.
Right.
Because my question is, why would this guy make it up? Well, if Michelle's family seems to have answers,
sure.
Tell me.
But on the other hand, like, what evidence is there against Cal? Like, what actual hard evidence can I see against Cal? So it's kind of like...
And put a pin in this, fam, because we're going to learn down the road, like, some of this evidence is, like, actually backed up.
Right.
So this is, like, not a completely non-credible story.
And this is where they tell us about, like, the motive supposedly for Cal was the divorce, right? Like, if they get divorced and the money. But, like, we're learning that's not really 100% possible either, because Cal...
His lawyer told him Michelle couldn't touch the business. And that anyway, before she vanished, Michelle had decided to accept Cal's settlement offer, $740,000.
She had indicated to numerous people she was happy with the settlement.
She was going to get over $700,000.
Right. She was happy to move on and
Yes.
whatever. So that whole argument is kind of like there's no evidence against this guy. The whole divorce motive, the whole
Right.
like I think he was an asshole, but like we need more than this.
Right. So now we get into the second trial. The second trial is like 2 years later or whatever. And that's when all of this like evidence about the settlement, she was fine with it. It wasn't about the money. There is no motive for him to have killed her.
Right.
And then Cal takes the fucking stand.
The defense decides that the jurors just simply need to hear from Cal himself.
You know what though? And like honestly, like we hear it all the time from jurors who are like who don't do what we do for a living, and they're like, "Why didn't he take the stand?"
Right.
No one ever takes the stand,
No one takes
except
the
for
stand.
Robert Durst and this guy.
Right. And here's what Cal says.
He admitted to an affair, blamed himself for the end of the marriage, but denied he threatened, hurt, or tried to control Michelle. If anything, he said, Michelle had been living a bit of a wild life, staying out all hours, just before she disappeared.
Then he victim blames and basically tries to assassinate her character because he's like, look, Michelle was off living this wild life. She had plenty of money. The nannies were here taking care of the kids, and Michelle was off doing whatever she was doing. You know what? I don't even know what she was doing.
I agree that he's totally shitty in this moment,
Cal.
but at the same time, it is fair to point out that she was hanging out with people that other people didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
She was hanging out. We're going to learn like the restaurant that she worked in. A lot of the people who worked there did have criminal records, and the people who like, it's not an unfair thing for somebody to point out, but for him to sit up on the stand and say it, like, it's just so clear
Because
victim blaming.
He's also like grooming the kids and planting the seeds that she wasn't a good mother and that she was neglecting them.
Right,
She can
right,
work
right.
in a bar where
Yep.
people have criminal records, but that does not equal that she was off doing whatever the fuck she wanted.
Yep.
Also, she has to work there, Cal, because you
cut her off. Right.
So like, I also can't believe that there wasn't some like manipulation with the kids and using the kids as pawns
100%.
and holding them hostage and not letting her see. Like, Cal, come on.
But you know what? None of it matters. It doesn't work.
The jury deliberated for almost 2 days. And guilty. Again. Family and friends stepped in and took care of his small kids, who began a weekly ritual visiting Dad in prison.
The kids are visiting him every week. They tell Keith about, and this is like heartbreaking.
And I have such mixed feelings about this because it's kind of like you hear this a lot where like the parent goes to prison and the parent says, you know what, don't make this your life. These kids are coming to see him every single fucking week, like the control
Right.
freak that he is.
And they believe that he didn't do it.
Yes.
You know?
But even still, even if you're wrongfully convicted, would I do this to Daisy? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, but it doesn't really, like, the kids are explaining how, like, sad it is. Like, it's
Yes.
really loud and you can't have a conversation. And it must have been so hard for them. And they say it is. But, like, yeah, I don't know if it was, like, a hard and fast rule that they had to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just very sad.
It's very sad. So years and years go by.
We jumped to October 2012.
And now there's like this major, major surprise. And Keith is like, Cal was in the prison yard when this
Yeah.
big bombshell
And this
came
is
out.
wild because once again, everybody's saying this never happens. But the New York Court of Appeals overturns his second murder conviction.
Yeah,
overturns it.
They cite errors made by the judge.
Yeah, and they order a third trial.
We're off to trial 3, everyone.
And, like,
Grab
in
your
the
bags.
meantime, he gets to go home.
He
and
goes
it's
home.
years until the trial starts.
And so, like, the kids are making a statement. We just want our dad to be home permanently.
The kids are saying that now that they're like adults, they want to be involved in the trial and they want to get it out there that we love him, we believe him, and we want him home.
And they're calling for what they're saying is a real investigation.
Yeah.
They want the public to help. They want their dad's name cleared.
It's honestly fair. Like, once again, we have no real evidence that he did anything. They organize a tip line. They're saying, like, what if you have any information, we want to know what's going on.
Right. And Cal's defense is like, look, these cops had blinders on. They never looked at any other suspects. They only looked at Cal.
And his attorney is like,
they've pursued this man for 14 years with scant evidence. Evidence that really no prosecutor should bring a case on. And they've pursued him relentlessly.
Without bothering to seriously consider any other suspect, said Barquette.
They pursued him relentlessly while refusing to consider other suspects.
So I think he gets a new team of lawyers.
Yeah.
And they go back, they talk to everyone again. They go through all of the transcripts from all the other trials and all the other hearings.
Because they also go back to the original files and they're reading the original witness statements, and those witness statements lead them to other witnesses that haven't been interviewed.
Yeah.
And they say a disturbing picture emerged of Michelle's last days.
And this is where the documents are saying the bar clientele apparently wasn't great. There were some criminals or some violent people or people were hitting on her a lot or whatever. And they read a statement from a witness that says they saw Michelle much later that night, like after 11 o'clock when she left the boyfriend.
Right. 11 is when she left the boyfriends.
And she was with a man who wasn't Cal and wasn't her boyfriend. Someone that we don't know.
But that they do know.
Right.
And he's described as a steel worker who's like a regular at Michelle's bar.
And so what they're saying is Cal's defense is saying that this steel worker guy is the guy that Kevin Tubbs, the farmer, saw arguing with Michelle.
Right. And like they had some history, like how long they'd known each other or been seeing each other. We don't really know. This witness saw them at a dance club that night, the night of September 11th. He said that he was with them for a while, but then left them alone and he went home. So like this steel worker was known to have told his friends that he had a sexual relationship with Michelle.
We have no information on this guy other than what his defense attorneys are telling us.
Well, we do have one piece of information, which is, remember, Kevin Tubbs said that when he saw these two people at 5:30 in the morning, they were standing next to a black truck. And we do know the defense team knows who this steel worker is. Right. He's an actual person. He's been identified. Yeah. They just aren't saying his name to us. And the defense team is saying
his physical appearance, his facial hair, his height, his age, and the type of vehicle he drove.
Tubbs said the man he saw was standing beside a black truck. The steelworker owned a black truck, same kind.
And it's a new model, and it's a Chevy. And you look everything up, and it's all coming together.
It's exactly what Kevin Tubbs described that he had seen.
Yeah.
How would Kevin Tubbs have known that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that he remembers all these details 6 years later and that he came out of the woodwork 6 years later. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right, because I want, like, Michelle's family, you're saying everyone knows he's lying. Well, tell us, what do you mean? Are you saying Cal paid him off? Cal gave him information? How would Cal know about the steelworker and the black truck?
It kind of is always interesting when someone just appears out of the clear blue sky all these years later and has like just the perfect amount of information.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
But to me, you can look at it the other way and say, like, well, it sounds like a fantastical story, except that, like, well, we found a guy who actually looks exactly like what this guy described and had the same truck that there's no way this Tubbs guy would have known.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
So now we're doing another trial, but we have to go into a different county because everyone knows about Cal.
And I got to say, the defense team is saying this is a major win for them. To get a change of venue is kind of a really big deal.
Yeah.
And like one of the defense teams says,
you had a relatively small county where, based on the data that we gathered, the polling showed that something like 97%, I believe, of the people in Tioga County knew Cal Harris's name, which is more people than know the name of the President of the United States.
Which is more people, apparently, than know the name of the President of the United States.
I tried to Google that statistic. I couldn't. But talk about a fantastical thing. I was like, what? Like, who are they polling?
Right.
Is it 18 and over?
Right.
Like, that just seems like you don't know the name of the president.
But I believe that that's true.
Currently?
Yes. I bet there are plenty of people who are entrenched in their own lives somewhere, struggling to make ends meet, feed their fucking families.
Sure.
They don't vote because they don't have time and they have too much to deal with, who like might not just readily be able to say, oh, the president is so-and-so. Yeah.
But is it like 96.9% of people know the president and 97% know Cal? Like, what's the discrepancy?
He's more famous as the president, that's all I can say.
In that one county,
yeah,
Cal is big doings, as they say.
But they get this change of venue. His daughter's going to testify. They say that the defense goes in strong. And like where we are...
This is the third trial.
It's the third trial, but it's also like right up to date. Like Dateline is there for the trial because Keith is sitting on the back porch with the kids again, and we still don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So like the kids are just like, and this is where I'm saying these kids seem so sad.
They do. It's a horrifying thing that they were put through.
Yes.
Many horrifying
and
things.
They still don't know what's going to happen. They're saying these kids have just grown up with uncertainty is the only certainty in these kids' lives.
But their certainty is that their dad didn't do it.
Their certainty.
Their certainty is, right?
Yeah.
And so, hey, guess what? Trial number 3 is a mistrial. We're going for trial number 4 now.
But the thing is, we're told that in the first 2 trials, the juries returned their verdicts within hours. It was 4 hours for the first one, 9 hours for the second one. This time,
4 days in, jurors told the judge they were deadlocked. He sent them back to try again. 8 days in, still deadlocked. Again, they were instructed to keep trying. Finally, 2 weeks in, the jurors made it clear they simply could not reach a verdict.
After 2 weeks, the jury's like, we're not going to come to a decision. But I do think that is an example of like, they should be deadlocked. You know what I mean? Like there isn't enough, for my money, there's not enough evidence to take this guy away from his kids or to take, you know what I mean? For the rest of their lives.
Right. So the episode ends with the lawyers promising a fourth trial, right?
Yeah.
I got some updates for everybody.
You do?
I have updates. I have many updates.
Oh my God, really?
So there was a fourth trial.
There was?
Cal was acquitted, full stop.
So he's acquitted.
He walks among us.
Oh my God.
But he's still being a horrible nightmare. For example, 3 weeks after his acquittal, he was arrested outside the home of Terry Schultz, one of the state police investigators in his case on stalking charges.
What?
He videotaped her house, her property, her car, sat outside for an hour staring and making threats at her son. He was charged with 4th-degree stalking, 2nd-degree menacing, and 2nd-degree harassment. He denies the charges, saying this is such a witch hunt because the cops just want to get me because I was acquitted all those times or whatever.
Oh my God.
Then he goes, no, I was only in that area because I was buying a drone from someone who was selling it online. Then, please. So he's harassing people who are part of the case.
Yeah.
That doesn't look good for him. Just go. If you want to go and be free and be happy, go live your life.
Go be with your kids.
Stop stalking people who have nothing to do with you anymore. You're done now. The case is over.
I couldn't agree more.
God. But then he's not over. In September of that year, he was found guilty on a harassment charge and was fined a whopping $100 and forced to take anger management classes. Why?
Why?
Because Cal was accused of bullying and threatening a student in his daughter's class because this student mentioned the case.
What?
And no one's allowed to talk about the case.
Oh, what's he going to say to us? Come for me, Cal.
Right? Come for me. Guess what? It keeps going. Later in 2017, a fucking drunk driving hit and run.
What?
He hit a car, he kept going, and when the cops pulled him over, he was fucking hammered. And of course, all of these charges are, I'm just a victim, everyone's out to get me. All of this is just like happening to Cal.
Oh my God.
And he's also like, age doesn't matter. Like, he went to that cop and like was stalking her and her son, his daughter's classmate. Like, this guy sucks.
And we still have no idea what happened to Michelle.
We don't know what happened to Michelle. And Cal is out in the world being an asshole to fucking every single chance he gets.
Oh my God.
I hate this guy.
I hate him too.
Come for me, Cal. I dare ya.
Oh my God, girl, we did it. We're halfway through the bonus apps.
Mystery at Empire Lake.
I would really, really love to know what happened to Michelle.
I hope we get to the bottom of this one day, honestly.
I have the thoughts in my head that the kids are walking the property, just being like, I don't know, should we open that well? Should we? Remember it was a homestead and there are wells and foundations all over the place?
And now it's like his property. Now it's trespassing. You can't. It's just,
oh my God.
I'm sorry,
join us on the Patreon if you want more of this rage. Patreon.com/TrueCrimeObsessed.
Yep.
400 ad-free bonus episodes. You get one every week. I can't say it enough.
Yeah, every week.
You get an extra episode every single week.
Goodness.
Ad-free versions of these episodes, after parties where we take your questions.
Yeah.
What's the next Dateline, girl?
The next episode is Queen of the County.
What is this?
It's about a family ripped apart by their fortune, which came from, I don't know how to say it, pecan trees? Pecan trees?
Pecan?
I don't know how to pronounce it because I think it's pecan, but because pecan sounds like I'm trying to be fancy. Oh, the pecan tree. I think it's pecan.
Wow.
Pecan. Anyway, but it's like a pecan tree fortune, and the family's ripped apart. It's another crazy family. Like, their money literally grew on trees.
Can you all just enjoy your money? Do you know what I mean? Can you all just enjoy your goddamn money?
No. And if you hate someone in your family, just move away from them and don't answer their calls. Like, honestly, it's easy. I can teach you how to do it.
God, follow us for more hot takes.
Real hot take, right?
All right, fam, we love you.
All right, we love you.
Bye.
Bye.
It lurks here on this storied family estate, a mystery as tangled and gnarled as the trees that reach for the sky.
I think she's dead. It eats at me. I can't sleep most of the time.
A crime like a storm. Everyone could see it coming.
Everybody in the town has their suspicions.
She was missing, the matriarch with a grip on her powerful family's fortune. Did someone have a powerful motive to do her harm?
I saw bruises on Bonnie's arms, like somebody had grabbed her.
She looked at him and said, "You tried to kill me."
Who was behind this? A search in the dark.
Right there. It's all right. It's all right. Whoa.
A secret in the family and a jailhouse interview to make your jaw drop.
You said you wished she were dead, and then later she became dead.
This is a twisted tale deep in the heart of Texas.
People who are desperate will do desperate things.
But I gotta tell you, to me, that says the system is working. Because, I don't know, even if, how many times do we hear people say, we know he did it, but we can't prove it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough evidence to prove that he did it.
Yeah. I
think
wouldn't say
there's
the system is working. I could say like maybe you would feel like it worked here.
Yes,
but
yes,
not like
yes,
in general
yes.
over.
In general, I feel great about this.
Everything is
Good
fine.
night, everybody. Thank you.
I'd be like, and welcome to the last episode of TCO.